okay, well, that's nice and all, but it doesn't actually answer the question. So I understand that you're saying there should be mutual respect, we should both feel heard, we should both discuss things, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, great. So you've discussed everything and, he still disagrees with you and thinks, no, you're incorrect, and I'm just really not willing to budge on this. So either we have one of two choices, right? Either the relationship is over because you won't budge, or he won't budge, or you won't concede, or what? What's the other option? You would have to concede to the authority, right? Like, I don't see any way around it.
I don't understand this though. I thought relationships were all about compromise.
Welcome to another video where modern women feign confusion just to avoid taking a stance that would force them to confront the realities of their own arguments. This new trend where they're unwilling to admit to the feminist ideologies they clearly hold, but rather try and minimize the severity of their indoctrination is quite strange. I never thought I'd see the day when modern feminists would hesitate to claim the label they've always been proud to identify as.
Yeah, I think the answer that you're looking for would be answered if you gave us like a specific scenario instead of just being like, who gets final say, because it like
super broad.
It's way too, like, if you ask a very specific, like, give us a specific scenario, like, I think you'll get the answers that you're looking for.
I mean, the specific scenario wouldn't even be relevant, but I'll give you one just to give you one, I guess.
I think that would.
So there's money, there's money, there's an inheritance of $100,000, okay? It's left to both of the members of the household, not just one, okay? And they're arguing about how to spend it. And the man is saying, okay, listen, I've heard all of your reasoning, I've heard all of your everything, right? I'm hearing you. Right? I'm compassionate towards you, but also no, we're going to spend it on this instead.
Okay, now we have a clear and concise scenario. How much are you willing to bet they don't give a straightforward answer?
Why would that is not a relationship?
Why would it not just be split? I don't. To me, it's sent to both of them. It's $100,000. They each get 50, and they can do what they want with it.
Yeah, and also in this scenario, are there kids?
No.
Like, it
so
really.
He's saying no, right? He's saying, look.
Well, that's kind of
no. He's saying no. I don't want it split. I want it going towards whatever this household thing is.
So already, I don't have respect for the
That's
person
a divorce.
doing that.
Yeah,
That's
right.
a
Because
divorce.
The decision on how $100,000 was going to be used would be grounds for this woman to ask for a divorce. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, these are the kinds of flimsy issues upon which they break a family.
This seems like such a stupid question.
Yeah, it's about like respect, not about like you can't just give one person ultimate power, and it really once again depends on the situation. Like, it's a partnership.
Whenever you hear a woman refer to a relationship with the word partnership, just run.
It's a relationship. You both talk about it, and like depending on the situation, maybe someone will make the final say, but it depends, and you still have to have that conversation, and you still have to have that respect.
Yeah, so then in this situation, we're talking about authority then, right? The man really doesn't have any authority, because ultimately if he says, listen, this is super important to me, and I know it's super important to you too, right? But I'm not willing to budge on it because I really think I'm right here. You feel in that instance it's totally appropriate for you to, and I quote, that's a divorce, right? So then this would infer that you actually have a lot of power in this situation, a lot of power in this dynamic that a man wouldn't have or wouldn't exercise. So if that's the case, right, it would basically make men want to steer clear of marriages like that, right? Because the position of authority would not actually be there.
Yeah, well, I'm saying divorce in terms of if he came up to you and he was like, this is what we're doing, you don't get a say, like that's how you kind of like, or that's what I took from it the first time that you mentioned it.
No, he listened to what you had to say. Everything you had to say.
Yeah, because
he just thinks that what you had to say is incorrect, and that ultimately it needs to go the way that he wants it to go because he thinks you're incorrect. So if that is the case, right, then if we're still in divorce territory, then what you're doing.
I never said we were still in divorce territory.
I beg your pardon.
That's a divorce.
I would say that you have to recognize everyone's skill set, right? So let's say that the woman tends to be better with money in this example, and the man is better, I don't know, let's say he's like a contractor, so he's not into investing, and the conversation is around like, what do we do with this inheritance? So if historically speaking she's been more accurate and more well versed in finances, that would probably go to her. And then if it was something in his wheelhouse, so it's just dependent on the person's specialty, I think is probably
but that's not what's in dispute. It's not in dispute that these two people would have a variety of skills. All those skills could be variously applied. There could be skills she's far better at than him. The hypothetical is looking towards, we're not able to compromise on this one thing, whatever it is. We're not able to come to an agreement, right? Mm-hmm. We're just not able to. So this would again state that there would have to either be somebody makes the concession, right, mm-hmm. or you part ways. I don't see a way around that exactly.
Right, but then earlier you said no one's holding that position permanently, but you want one answer, like absolutely, like it's either absolutely the man or absolutely the woman, and then everyone that's asking for context.
No. This is a critique. That was a critique of your worldview. So I just conceded that even if it was the case mm-hmm. that that both parties did not permanently hold this position, mm-hmm. it still doesn't answer to the question of when you hit this impasse, right? How do you deal with it when one won't compromise because they both think that they're right? One person would have to ultimately be the person who was conceded to.
Right, and it's whoever excels in that dominion. So again, it's if it's finances, typically that ends up being the man, traditionally speaking. So if it has to do with money, it's going to be the man. If it has to do with the kids or people, I would say it's the woman.
Yeah.
Then you're taking the feminist position. Then.
How's that feminist?
Well, here's why. Feminists believe men and women to be equal. And your argument, which suggests you insist on an equal distribution of authority between a man and woman in a relationship, falls in line with their ideology of equality.
Because what you're doing is you're saying that there's a shared authority.
It's not necessarily authority, and I think that there is a difference between leadership and authority. Like leadership is looking for counsel, and it's not just dismissing anyone else.
How can you have authority or leadership with no authority? I don't even know how that's done.
It's
like
leadership
to me implies that there's authority, that people are seeing you as an authority of some kind. They're looking to you as an authority of some kind. I'm not even sure that you can have leadership.
Because you're instilling respect, and in that respect, the person is choosing to follow. That's the difference.
Well, yeah, but even regardless of why they are, perhaps it's because you show them respect or something like this, they would still have to concede some sort of authority for leadership, right?
Would you like us to be in relationships where we cede to authority of a man?
It has nothing to do with what I would like. I'm just asking this question.
Sounds like it is, though.
I was just curious.
I don't actually think I'm getting an answer to it.
Okay, you want an answer? Here's your answer from all of us, from what I've heard, at least from the people talking. It depends on the situation. A relationship is a partnership. Nobody has absolute say over anything. And if you seriously are in an argument that's that deep and like you can't compromise, and both people are not like, they're not willing to budge at all, then why are you in a relationship? Like the whole point of a relationship is you guys are equals, and yeah, you have different responsibilities. Maybe some people have different things that they focus on that they do. But at the end, it's not about gender. It's not about who has more power. It's about the situation. And like,
well, that really wasn't, I mean, that's your view, yeah, but that really wasn't her view. Her view was she thought a man should generally lead. Mm-hmm. Right, a man should generally be in a position of authority, but then when we hone in on it, it looks like more that there's a shared authority, which is more of a feminist position. So I understand your position. I get it. You were clear on the outset. You believe that men and women should share authority in a relationship. I get it. I understand. I'm not disputing that. I'm just looking at the idea of if you think a man should mostly have authority, I don't know what the hell that actually means if we reduce it to, well, unless he's not really good at it and then the authority moves over to the woman, I'm not sure how we even make these determinations unless you're ceding to your own authority.
Well, that's because this has been like dragged out and you're not accepting anyone's answer.
That idiotic response where they say, I answered your question, you just don't like my answer, whenever they say something ignorant can get quite frustrating. There's never a yes or no with these people. It's always a sometimes, maybe, or it depends.
So initially my response was it's trusting the other person. So yes, the man can absolutely lead, but there's a difference between a leader and a tyrant. So if you have the man that's leading and you respect his decision, you come to an impasse. What I originally said, which wasn't accepted, was that in my 15-year relationship, this has never come up, because in that dynamic, nothing has been at an impasse. And if anything was, it was mutually tabled until we could revisit it and come to an answer. So it wasn't me taking the lead.
I don't know why you're saying
because that answer wasn't accepted originally.
I accept that you're answering. I'm not accepting that you're giving an actual answer. So
that is absolutely an answer.
The question is not, in your personal life, have you ever had an impasse with a man or your husband or whoever? That's not the question. The question is, I'm not asking that.
I know.
I'm not asking about your personal situation, because I don't give a shit, right? The question is asking specifically, if authority is to be shared, if the dynamic is to be shared, then who ultimately makes the decision for who even gets to share the authority, right? If it's going to be you get to make that decision, then it can't really be that the man is in authority most of the time, because it would infer, there would at least be an inference here that you're sharing authority with him.
Yeah, you would decide that ahead of time. I think this goes back to communication. I think, and the fact that everyone's saying all relationships are different. I think if you're conversing about this with your partner ahead of time, it's like, hey, let's talk about authority. Let's talk about who gets the final say. Are there areas that you feel like you want the final say in? And how do I feel about that? Are there areas I feel like I want the final say? Like we talked about kids, money, all of those things. You can create so much, like eliminate so many problems if you just have communication on the front end and talk about what feels good for each person. It's going to look different in every relationship, but that would be what I say. There is just no this, you're wanting this overarching umbrella, it sounds like, of like, this is the way it is, this is the way it should be. That's it. And it just doesn't really work, because
I haven't
all
told you
humans
anything
are
that I want. Like, all I'm doing is this is so that you know, okay? She made a claim. She said, most of the time, I think a man should be in a position of authority. So all I'm doing is exploring that idea by asking her, okay, but if the position of authority is actually shared, how's he really in authority? That's what
I said
we're diving
leadership.
into. Hang on. That's what we're diving into, right? I'm not disputing that you could make pre-arrangements with somebody for who has authority, who doesn't. I'm not disputing that you can't have long conversations and walks on the beach at night to make determinations about decisions in your life. I'm not disputing any of that. I'm just trying to determine who ultimately, if authority mostly should be in the hands of a man, gets to determine that authority then. And if it's you, aren't you really the authority?
I'll sit here while she's gone.
I mean, I feel like, we've kind of said, like, like, we just keep repeating our answers, like, sorry, that is not the answer that you're looking for. But I mean, everybody's different. And, like, if someone's in a relationship where, like, the man is considered, like, head of the household, you still have to make those big decisions together. And, like, yeah, maybe he'll decide, like, what he wants to eat for dinner.
Do me a favor, please. Get out of here.
Or, like, something smaller. But I personally feel like, in terms of, like, really big decisions like that, you can't really have one person fully take over. But once
yeah,
again,
I understand that.
just...
So I've always understood your view. Your view is equality. Just so you know, your view is different than the view of the girl next to you, the girl next to her, the girl next to her. I'm only exploring one view of a person who's not you, right? So therefore, I would like her to answer the question, because she's her and not you, who has a different view.
She did answer, though.
Look at me in the windows to my soul. Shut the fuck up.
Hang on, who has a different view than she does. So back to her, I'd like to just, if you don't mind, if we can just finish this real quick. I'm actually still confused, right? So perhaps without the sisterhood getting involved with their view, which I don't give a shit about, and just your view, if it is the case that authority is shared, right, or not, in your case you say the man should mostly be an authority.
Lead.
Are you the determiner of that?
No, and again,
well, then who is? Who is the determiner?
It depends on the subject.
And there it is, the classic "it depends" response yet again. He's tried 3 times now to get a clear answer out of her, but she keeps running the conversation in circles. At that point, you're better off just letting their ignorance speak for itself. Leave your comments below, like, and subscribe. See you in the next one.